So here's another venting video. So I was just watching MS Now, and the sort of story what they were talking about was that for the first time, um, more Americans think the Democratic Party is better with the economy than Republicans are. And it's the first time that's been true since 2010. That's the story. So I want to talk about what I view as Trumponomics. Okay, so the last, I'll say, 40 years of the American economy, let's say through the Biden administration, the American economy was just doing great. The recovery from the pandemic was surprising to at least to most business people. We came out of that much faster than people thought, and that was because there was a lot of pent-up demand. And the American economy in the last 30 or 40 years has really been consumer driven. I mean, really what made the economy successful was consumerism. I mean, Americans were buying everything, you know, and which drove Trump crazy, right? Because it meant that we had, negative balance of trade with most countries because we were buying all their stuff. And America, of course, was the richest, country, really in the world, I think. The average income, I'll say real income, the idea meaning your standard of living, what the money you have, how the money you have allows you to live. Standard of living, America has the highest standard of living, or at least, um, let's say the times that I was studying economics, which was a long time ago, the American economy was way ahead of the rest of the world in terms of the average American was far better off, and in real terms, meaning how they live their lives. Their shelter, their food, their economic well-being. America was the highest by far. So, and it was all consumer driven, right? People are buying things like, it's a fabulous market for the whole world. American consumers, their standard of living, constantly goes up. When I was growing up, if not everybody had a car. Now everybody has two cars, So anyway, the standard of living in the United States through my lifetime has continuously gone up, and I realized that I've done better financially than most people, but my life is I think like most middle class lives. The American economy was a consumer-driven economy, and Trump interfered with that. The tariffs interfere with trade, and under Biden, every company in the world, whether they had a product or a service, wanted to get into the U.S. consumer market. So America was in the enviable position of the whole world trying to think up new things that we would like to buy. So, if you were in a position, middle class America was generally in a position to take advantage of that. And we did. And we did. And it was a wonderful time, and it was wonderful for the world economy, and it was particularly wonderful for the American economy. And of course, there has been a tremendous change in the demand for labor as technology has changed the world. Like there was a big loss, for example, of jobs in factories. When I was growing up, if you had a high school education, you could go to work in a factory, join a union, and live the American dream, right? You could have a house, a car, and a wife and 2.5 kids. That was the American story, 50s, right? 1950s. Anyway, um, that changed largely because of automation. It's not really because of the shift to a global economy. Although, MAGA people think that the job loss was related to globalization, but it wasn't. And it wasn't, by the way, actually job loss. It was a change in demand for labor. And having a high school education no longer guaranteed you a middle class living. And that was a pretty big change. That was a pretty big change. So, um, anyway, America success, and for most Americans, their standard of living in 2025 was a lot better than it was in 1970. And America had tremendous advantage from globalization. A lot of people can attribute job loss to things being made overseas, but it's not as true. There's some impact, yes, but the big impact from having stuff made overseas is that we could all afford it. You know, I mean, people making clothes in Malaysia, right? We're getting $3 a day, and before you go, oh my God, $3 a day, how could anybody live on that? These people had been living on no dollars a day for centuries. Okay, so $3 a day, that was a godsend for them. While it had a negative, globalization certainly put negative pressure on average compensation for labor in the United States. I mean, it certainly did do that. But it also meant, even with that downward pressure on wages from globalization, the fact is that the goods you could acquire were so much cheaper than what it would cost to be made in the United States. I mean, there's some examples of that which, candidly, I don't remember, but I remember some executives have been asked, what if you made all your stuff in the United States? What would an X cost? And the answer is surprising, right? It's like 5 times more. I mean, it's surprising. So, and it would really negatively impact the standard of living for the average American. America First is absolutely backward, right? America First was where we were in 2025. Not just financially, but certainly financially, America led the world economy. I mean, I don't think anybody who reads business journals or business literature, or maybe they get mostly online these days, but anybody who kind of follows the world economy, I mean, 2025 was America's best year ever. I know that Trump ran, and 77 million of us believed that the economy was horrible and only he could fix it. That was the Republican theme, not just him, right? The whole Republican Party ran on that, and we elected them. And they have the House and the Senate and the president. And their view is absolutely upside down. And, now I've have a couple degrees with a focus on economics, so maybe I think about it more than most people do. But I mean, basically, what did Trump do? He reduced the consumerism of the United States with a tariff plan. He interfered with the global economy, and you know, that's not a good plan. It's not a good plan, and he has had a terrible impact. And now he's going to push to, I realized that in talking to the Senate for confirmation hearings, that this guy, I think his name is Marsh, who's going to head up the Federal Reserve, said, "Oh man, we're going to be independent." And that's not true. Okay, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, right, that the three Republican um, appointees to the Supreme Court said in front of Congress, "Oh yeah, no, you know, Roe is established precedent. You know, that's established precedent. You know, yeah, they all said that, and then as soon as they were in place, boom, they blew it up." So I know he said the right things. I don't think that matters. He is a Trump toady, or he wouldn't have been appointed. And Trump wants interest rates to be lower. And Trump wants interest rates to be lower because he doesn't understand the American economy. Making interest rates lower would be a terrible idea. But he obviously doesn't know what's happening. He says that his tariffs did not impact inflation. He's not the only Republican who says that, but it's a lie. The tariffs absolutely impacted inflation. In fact, the quarter before last, when Powell was talking about why he didn't raise interest rates, he said that the reporter asked him if the tariffs played a role, and he said, well, the core economy growth was about 2.5%, which is pretty close to the 2% we're looking for. But he said with the tariffs, it became 3.5%. And I mean, that's still, inflation's too high, so we can't lower interest rates. So, Trump's going to lower interest rates, and that's going to screw up the economy more. And that's only the beginning. The fact that the lower interest rates when they shouldn't be lowered is going to screw us up, there's no doubt about that, okay? But in addition to that, it's going to demonstrate the Federal Reserve is not independent. And you know what's going to happen? The whole world owns American debt, right? American debt is approaching like $39 trillion. So every country has American debt. And the reason they have American debt is because it's an extremely safe place to put your money. So if you have money that you want to put aside, that's the best place to put it. It's the safest place. It has the lowest return because it's the safest place. But that's been the definition of American debt, And once the Federal Reserve is not independent, that will not be the definition of American debt anymore. And my guess is, and I'm certainly not an expert, I've had some schooling in economics, but I am not an economist by any stretch of the imagination. I know enough economics to be in awe of people who are economists, but I am not one of them. Okay, but Trumponomics is a complete disaster. I mean, why it took the most of America so long to see it, you know what? Because it had to be in the grocery store, and now it is in the grocery store. And let me tell you something, that's just the beginning, because you have to realize, first of all, one of the big impacts on food prices is the war in Ukraine. Most of the grain we get comes from came from Ukraine. Okay, so everything that takes grains, and it's an amazing amount of high percentage of the food we eat includes grains. And by the way, the meat is fed by grain. So I mean, everything goes up in price when the supply of grain is as limited, and it's limited because of the war in Ukraine. Anyway, I don't mean to digress on what's causing inflation, but at least in my opinion. But Trumponomics is a disaster for this economy, and it's beginning to come to life for consumers. And consumers, here's the bad news: it's only the beginning. Everything he's doing is an economic disaster because the guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. I'll just say that. In addition to that, you have the most incompetent administration ever. Not one person picked to run an agency was picked because they were going to be the best person to run that agency. They were picked because when Trump said jump, they said, "You got it. I'm how high, man. I'm there." And so, I mean, our whole government is incompetent. And the amount of things the government does for you that you don't really think about, like food safety, like we have measles in the United States because we have an idiot running the world of health in the United States. And all the most important research programs have been cut down. I mean, we have a completely incompetent administration, and it's making a really big difference. And it takes time for those people to make these terrible decisions, for it to, reach the storefront. But that time has begun, and there's a lot of worse things coming your way. Okay, so I mean, Trumponomics is a complete disaster in this personal person's opinion, and I feel strongly enough about it that I had to make this idiotic video.